really wanted a Torrens title freestanding property. I bought a strata plan duplex.
Yeah.
So that got me in, being in that sort of cheaper level, but I wasn't overdoing it. So I knew I wouldn't be in a situation where I'd have to sell it. And that gives you longevity. And like I said, you just leverage that to open up your options. So yeah, not getting that dream home first or that Pinterest-worthy investment.
Pinterest has a lot to answer for.
Totally.
Walk the talk, so to speak.
Adds a level of experience. And I try and really embody that excitement for them and break it down like a step-by-step process, because when you really do that, it's not as scary as it seems.
Welcome all. Welcome to our podcast. And we're sitting here today with Alyce Lewis, and we're chatting about property. And we're talking about how she got started in property, some challenges, things that scared the crap out of her when she started, and what she's doing today in real estate. Welcome, Alyce.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And as we've said before on this podcast, you and me are both sitting here today. It's one of our first episodes.
Yes,
we're both
when
nervous.
you're here.
And we're both nervous as hell doing this because we're not professional podcasters.
Yeah.
But part of our journey, and we'll credit to Alyce, has put her hand up, said, I'll be in it, I'll get involved. We wanted to create, as I said before, we want to create this channel which we're sharing stories of real people like Alyce and myself, and there'll be accountants and investors and market analysts talking about property and our journeys. None of us are perfect experts. We're interviewing and sharing stories to hopefully inspire young people like Alyce to get into the property market, and older buggers like me that go, I could still buy another property and still do that, and their journeys and their conversations. So we hope you get a lot out of it today. We'll put all Alyce's details in here. She's a great agent up there on the Central Coast and knows all about her area. And we're going to do another podcast with Alyce talking about her area in case you're looking for investments in that area and what it's all about. But anyway, getting started, I have a couple of questions. So let me bring up my little cheat sheet. And just to throw you off, I'm going to ask you questions that aren't on here.
Great.
Yeah. We were chatting earlier about your journey into property. When did you first start? When did you buy your first property?
So I was about 24 years old when I bought my first property.
Wow. That's pretty good. I think I was chatting to Matt on another podcast, Matt Spears, and he was a very similar age, 23.
Yeah.
And many years ago, I was 23 and bought, I think, my first property. I bet it was scary at the time when you jumped into that. How did you sort of get going? What pushed you to buy a property?
Yeah, so I was really determined to buy my first property completely on my own. I was working in the real estate industry, so it was always at the forefront of my mind.
And you were saying earlier, how long have you been in real estate now?
12 years.
I know, I was going, when did you start at 12?
Way back when.
Yeah, so you're obviously involved with real estate, and you were seeing what was happening. So was it part of that inspired you, or did someone else or a friend or family say you thought about property? What sort of got you going, or was it just being in the industry?
I think I was raised by a single mum, so money was always a bit of a stressor in our household. So I was always having tunnel vision of wanting that financial independence and freedom. Yeah. So I worked really hard, and that was just a key goal of mine to sort of get me to that next level.
Wow. It's pretty good going. And obviously your mum was good guidance there.
Absolutely. Got a great work ethic.
Being a single mum's much harder.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think any of us guys know how hard that is.
Yeah.
And if you're in a relationship with someone else, there's always one person doing one side of the deal and the other one doing the other, which really helps, and you're a really strong unit by trying to do it by yourself. So hats off to your mum.
Yes, so I inherited a great work ethic from her. So when the time come where I was in real estate, seeing that momentum all the time through the deals, I just wanted to get my foot in the door.
Oh, well done. It's interesting. I didn't come from a single parent, but my mum was the business leader in the family.
Yes,
so
love that.
She went into a dress shop, Shirley Gregg in Manly, when when they were both young, mum and dad went into business, I think like 21 or 22 or something. And Dad was actually like a boilermaker on steam trains. We're going back.
Wow.
But he gave that up and supported Mum, and she was the buyer and built the dress shop, and they built a great business in Manly.
That's a beautiful team, having that stability and drive together.
Yeah. So I got, I always wanted to be in business because of my mum, and she was the leader. So hats off to all those women in business like yourself, doing phenomenally well. So tell us a bit about the first property you bought, why you bought. I know you were saying, you had, excuse me, you had this checklist.
Yes.
That it all went out the window.
Totally, and thank goodness it did, because as we were speaking about before, there's so much leverage and opportunity that stems from investing into your first property.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about, you said that you had the checklist.
Yep, and then
was it an emotional reason why you threw that out, or what happened?
It was just feasibility, I think. I went and saw a broker about what my budget would be.
Yeah.
Once I had a good inkling on that, I created the checklist. These are the things that are important to me in the first purchase. And very quickly I realised that probably was going to hold me back. And I've seen so much in my job where I'll see these first home buyers come in with starry eyes and all the bells and whistles they want in their first home. And very quickly they may get priced out of the market. Yeah. So my priority was just getting my foot in the door. So that came first.
So going through that, then you got married.
Yes.
Your partner had a property.
Yes.
You had a property. You were telling me about you combined. You ended up buying a farm with sheep.
Yes, we love the sheep. So I had my first home, and then my partner had a little home as well. We cashed out of those to invest and upgrade our assets.
I think I did that too once, something similar to that. Yeah.
Yes, so the farm came up. We weren't looking. How rude. And we had to kind of pivot and move really quickly to be able to move forward with that.
So you've got some acreage, is that where you're at?
Yes.
And you've got your sheep, which I've seen on Instagram, because
yes.
you do very well on social media, which is another thing we're going to share down the track with you, what Alyce has done with her social media accounts to help people with ideas that are building businesses and ideas to grow your income, which you can buy then property with.
Yes.
So you've got your sheep. I know they're Pride. What sort of sheep are they? We're segueing here, by the way.
Yes, sorry. We'll do this.
Tell me about your sheep.
So I've got 2 Valius sheep, which are like the black face, beautiful sheep. They're gorgeous nature. And then I've got 2 crazy goats, like 17 chickens, 2 dogs, a husband. It's a busy household.
It is. But, and I think this is the things that, like, if you guys hadn't owned property, wouldn't have been able to get into that one.
No way. And that's the beautiful thing, and it's something I'm really passionate about, and I know you are too, Pete. Starting and inviting that compromise in for the first purchase. If I didn't do that and bite the bullet and get in the door, I wouldn't have been able to tick off goals that I thought I would be achieving more towards retirement age. I would have never had these opportunities. So I think in an age of comparison culture, and this is why I like to share my first home journey, for those people who are feeling the pressures of, Instagram and social media and thinking you need all of these things in that first purchase. If you just see the bigger picture and cut the short-term comfort, it'll open you up to be able to achieve more than you ever thought.
So you've got some investments now. You're planning. What's your plan? What I want to do is talk about your vision, your plan for the next 5, 8 years. And then let's talk about tips you could give people that are starting out to guide them where you were then, it's not that long ago that you bought your first property.
Yes.
But to guide people, because I know people are going, how do I get started?
Yes.
So what are you thinking you want to do with your idea in real estate?
So, I'm building my business at the moment, creating a team. So I've worked in real estate solo, backed by the brand, of course, but now's the time to step it up a notch. So I'm investing in a team, also in the property sector.
And people may not realise too that when you're building a team in real estate, you usually commission only. You've got to pay those wages.
Yeah.
You've got to build them. So you're a business within a business.
It's a whole different kettle of fish.
So you are a true, independent business in there.
Yes.
So you got to be able to fund that and grow it. That's
absolutely. So that's an investment in itself, but I'm very excited about that. And then in the property sector, so I've got a dual occupancy investment. We want to grow our portfolio, but at the moment we're in the middle of a renovation on the acreage. Yeah. So my house is basically a shell right now. So we'll focus on that and then probably leverage some equity and keep growing that portfolio.
It's fantastic. I mean, we all go there. I think back, me and Lou, and the things we've done. I remember doing everything. Me and Lou sanding all these old skirting boards in a property in Manly and doing it. And
It's a
Took
whole
me
ordeal.
about 3 months. I thought, we'll just paint them. I should have painted them. But, because that old dark stain in Manly we had to bring back to like a beachy colour.
Yes.
And you go, you remember. But you
Bite
evolved
off more
from
than
that.
you can chew, make
Correct.
it work.
And chew like hell.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. And so it's been a great journey for you so far.
It's been a very rewarding journey, and I think it just goes to show anyone can do it.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful vehicle property for people who are starting from just getting in the door, as we said, and then building that momentum.
And my hat off to you. And both of us, we both started with nothing. I was a young apprentice, grew up in DY Manly, had to make some money. Eventually bought a property at 23, built that, then built some business which helped fund things.
Yeah.
And we were chatting earlier, I would have made more money just buying property and not starting a business.
Yes.
But then I was lucky enough to build the business bigger, which helped with some cash flow. But I looked at a lot of people that have just sat on the property.
Well, it's the safe option, isn't it? Then we get all these ideas and you get the bug for it.
Yeah, and you're in that ideal thing. You're in the business, which is a business without – there's risk because if you don't list property and sell property, you don't make any money.
Yeah.
But you don't have huge premises and overheads and costs and
Correct.
too many staff. But
I don't envy that. No offense.
it's hard. And there's so many areas where you can move to, and I think starting young is what a lot of people don't think about early enough. And you were lucky, as you were saying, you were in the real estate game.
Yes.
So you saw people buying and selling. Is there any things that stand out that you think through your career now that you've seen people do well or badly when they bought a property? And that's a hard one because you've got to dig deep.
Yeah, I think I've seen it all in regards to the positives and negatives of the deals. But if we can give people advice in getting started, I would plan as early as you can. Something that people always tell me is, it's a bit too early to engage a broker. It seems a bit far off. I don't even know where to start. I have some great broker contacts, at least the ones I know, and I know you do too, Pete. You can chat with them obligation free. It doesn't cost anything, and you can tell them your goals. They will sit with you and map it out. These are the pros, these are the cons, these are the do's and don'ts. There's so many schemes as well through the government and opportunity that you might not know about. So I think planning ahead and having a clear goal to work towards will get you there faster. I think that's a key cheat code in starting.
And I guess one of the things too, I think back when my parents, in the early days, it wasn't, houses were quite simple. You had one stove. You had one old fridge, But now, like even my generation growing up, there's everything. You've got to have a dishwasher. All these, there's so much.
Integrated too. You can't even find it in the kitchen.
Yeah, I know. And it costs you so much more.
Yes.
What are some of the tips when you think back? Are you saying you'll forgo other things to get started?
Yeah.
What advice could you give people?
In my experience, I really wanted a Torrens title freestanding property. I bought a strata plan duplex.
Yeah.
So that got me in, being in that sort of cheaper level, but I wasn't overdoing it. So I knew I wouldn't be in a situation where I'd have to sell it. And that gives you longevity. And like I said, you just leverage that to open up your options. So yeah, not getting that dream home first or that Pinterest-worthy investment.
Pinterest has a lot to answer for.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit like sometimes you see on social media world, these people having these amazing lives, but it's just snapshot. And I just came back from a trip in skiing, which would go with the family, and it was fantastic.
We love that for you.
It was really nice. But what's interesting in some of the places I've been, you just see people not living. They're just posting. I'm sure they turned up for lunch just to post a social media shot of them sitting on the top of this mountain in this restaurant, but they don't ski. And I'm going, and it's always good people watching in Europe, I've got to say that. But it gives a false sense of what real lives are out there.
Yeah, like I'll get all the time, it's really hard to save for a deposit, which it absolutely is. But then they're buying luxury cars and designer handbags first, which is all well and good if that's a priority to you. But yeah, it's something where if you can there is a level of sacrifice, right, you have to do to get into the property market. So I see that a lot. My generation's really guilty of that.
No, mine was probably too, I think. I think I was the last year of the baby boomers, which my kids give me a hard time to say you boomer. but it was different. You know, my parents are much more conservative because my dad sort of grew up through the Depression.
Yeah.
And they're more conservative. And then, you know, my mum and dad built a little business. So, you know, I thought we were well off because we had Tim Tams in the cupboard.
Hey, that's all right. It's
so
an all right deal.
Yeah, that's right. But I remember when I started, at least, like in the early days, I remember probably a couple of years into working, 18, I started 16, started working as a young chef. And I'm thinking, Mum and Dad, they got this house in DY and Tim Tams in the cupboard. How am I ever going to afford that? And I think at one stage I was thinking maybe I'll just go and be a hippie and live on a farm. Even though I wanted to start a business, I knew I always wanted to have a restaurant in those days, and I did that for many years. But I thought it was so hard to get started. But it's funny, you know, one foot in front of the other.
That's it.
You work hard, you save a little, you eventually get your foot on. And I think, too, when I bought a property, it was like all in, borrowed 100%, leveraged as much as I could, and then, you know what they say, bite off as much as you can chew and chew like hell.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was similar to you when you started.
Definitely. You're navigating. I mean, I still had a level of industry knowledge, and it was still a daunting process. Like it was positive overall, but I think you still learn behind the curtain when you are going through your first deal personally.
Yeah.
So you're hearing the solicitor jargon, the broker jargon. There's so many plates moving, which just has helped me guide first home buyers through their journey more so than ever after that time period, experiencing it myself.
And I think, you know, congratulations to you. Even a lot of people in real estate as agents don't actually own property.
Yeah.
You've made that commitment early to get involved, which is great because it helps guide people because you've been there, you know, you've got to walk the talk, so to speak.
Adds a level of experience, and I try and really embody that excitement for them and break it down like a step-by-step process, because when you really do that, it's not as scary as it seems.
Earlier, for your first and third property, you mentioned earlier today about them being off-market.
Yes.
How'd you find them? Tell us a little bit about that.
So off-market is basically when the property isn't online on the real estate portals like realestate.com or Domain. So my first and third property were completely off-market, which is a great tool as a seller and buyer. You can go to the areas that you're interested in investing in or purchasing in and contact the local agent, see what's on their books. They might be preparing some properties to go to market, or they might have sellers that are open to hearing from qualified buyers.
Sometimes they don't, believe it or not, some vendors don't want to put it on REA or domain.com.
100%. They might want something a little more discreet. They might not want to pay any marketing fees, or they might be working towards a flexible settlement.
And it's not what we'd advise you as a real estate agent.
No, I mean,
always say take it to market because
totally.
But there
it
is
can
clients,
be a leverage point for particular clients. So it's always worth delving into whatever opportunities you can find as a first home buyer. What that will also do is alleviate more competition. So you're kind of getting in first. And then, as I said, for sellers, it's a value add because you're going to have to probably pay something that's really enticing to them or match their terms for it to be worthwhile not going to market. So, basically reach out to your real estate agent, see what's coming up, and that's a good starting point as well to see what you haven't seen online.
So why don't we just, for people listening today, because this is all about education, how do we help people, give them little tidbits that's going to help them buy a property, get started in investing or buy the next one? So if you're advising young people coming to you and you're showing them a home and they haven't bought a property, what's some tips that you would think are good at dealing with agents in presenting an offer? What are some of the things, if you look at it as an agent's point of view now that you deal with?
Yeah.
I know sometimes people don't maybe treat us with respect always. We like think, they're just a real estate agent. And it's true, we work for the vendor to get them the best possible price for the home. That's what real estate agents do, and that's our responsibility. But how do you guys like to be treated? What do you think questions they should be asking you as agents when people are looking to buy a property?
Yeah, probably a key question that might be valuable to you to ask your agents when you're viewing a property is, are there any terms that are important to the vendors? I've seen time and time again, price is really important, but it's not everything to some particular clients. So there's some leverage points there that might be able to strengthen your offer as a consumer.
Yeah, and I think I've noticed too, when I was selling, sometimes you think you're being cheeky and say, I'm only going to offer that.
Yes.
But don't miss out on a property because you didn't offer that extra 5 or 10 grand.
Yeah, 100%.
Because you're buying an investment property for a long term. You want to be minimum of 10 years. You want to go, I'm going to hold this forever. I mean, sometimes I bought properties and they've gone up 3 years after, right? And they've jumped up 50% because the market was ready to take off.
Yes.
Others I've held for 15 years to try to double it. So you don't know in that period of how long it's going to take to get the growth. But you got to look at it and go, in my mind, I used to think if I was buying $1 million property, way back, if I paid 50, 75 grand more than the market or where it was, I didn't mind. Because how I looked, in 10 or 15 years, it's worth 2. So do I care? But I remember
that's experience knowledge, right?
Well,
and
probably, yes.
This is a good thing to bring into it because, first home buyers and young people getting into the real estate sector, it's comforting to hear that, there is growth over the long term if you're investing in the right places, and to hear that from someone who's such an experienced property investor will be really reassuring.
I think sometimes, we hear a lot of things, don't offer that, don't do that. But you got to look at what is your long goal with that property.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you didn't buy, example, $1 million property, buy one for $1 million, you wouldn't have the opportunity to make that $1 million in 10 or 15 years. Example, if you bought the right property in the right area. And I think people get well-meaning advice from friends and family.
Here we go. Yes.
And it's so true, right? As we say on this channel, be careful who you get advice from.
Yeah, not your uncle who bought 20 years ago,
Correct.
who hasn't bought a property since. Things have changed.
Or someone that's never bought a property.
Yes, that's key.
Yeah, and use lawyers and accountants that preferably own property.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, building a trustworthy team around you is something that's more accessible than you would probably think if you were in the industry every day. There's some phenomenal brokers, there's some phenomenal solicitors and conveyancers, great real estate agents. If you get a recommended trustworthy person and you can build that team, as you go through those inspections and you're checking through contracts and finalising finances and assessing different options, having that in your corner is a very valuable tool.
Yeah, I think one of the things at school, going back a couple of years, we were sort of taught almost that we had to be an expert or we had to have this broad knowledge of all these subjects. The reality I found in life is that you don't have to be an expert in those. You've got to find experts to help you.
Yes.
You just need to concentrate on what you're good at and focus on that. And mine wasn't necessarily buying property. I would work with experts to help me. So don't get caught up on that, what they taught us at school.
Yes.
That you got to try to be a master of all these topics.
Correct.
Because that's not how you get ahead. You've got to leverage into people that have had more and I still use it. I just used a buyer's agent.
Yes,
I was earlier to buy a large commercial, and because it wasn't, I had some knowledge of commercial and owned a few shops, but I didn't have a big knowledge. So I used buyers expert, and they found me a cracker of a property in Perth that I never would have bought.
Yeah, so that's it. It doesn't matter how experienced you are, how many properties you've purchased. No. If you just tap into your resources and build a great team of trusted advisors in whatever field you're looking in. And I do it with like building my team, for instance.
Yes.
I have a few key people that I know have success in that realm. So I still leverage to this day things outside of real estate as well.
I think that's the thing. You've got to be open, whether you're my vintage or your Alyce's vintage, be open to learning from whoever.
Yeah.
We had Matt on earlier on our podcast, and Matt is a great investor, runs a great brokerage. He's built a phenomenal brokerage business, and he's got investment in gyms. And I learn a lot off him when it comes to financing property.
Yes.
So got to be open to it. Don't put blinkers on and go, I know, unless you already own 100 properties, and you're probably still learning, as you would say, that's why you're buying more property. Be open to learning. So just jumping back onto your dealing, just say I'm coming as a young buyer to look at one of your properties. What questions do you think, even if it was you, should be asking the agent to know about the property?
Yes.
What are some tips you could give them that maybe insider tips from an agent to someone looking?
Absolutely. So I think, do your own research before you're going in, but things like land sizes, getting a copy of the contract to assess and checking those over early to make sure there's nothing in there that's a big red flag.
Okay, just so I'm a novice, how do I check out my contract? Do I do it myself?
You
do I go to a lawyer? What do I do?
Yeah, so you can ask the agent for a copy of the contract. And what I would do is if you had a conveyancer that you've engaged, you can say, hey, I'm looking at buying in the near future. We're going to inspections. Can I send over a copy of the contract so you can briefly have a quick squiz and let me know if there's any red flags or if we're good to go? So that's also reverts back to creating a solid team.
Yeah, and I think that's important. You've got the right conveyancer, and there's conveyancers, and then there's solicitors that deal with property.
That's it.
Depending on the complexity of the property, you might one over the other would be better.
Exactly, yeah. So you can explore those options and do some research on those factors and make sure you're getting someone recommended and that's available. I find that really key with your legal teams, making sure you can reach them when you need them.
And I think on that too, people listening today, is that don't just think one solicitor can do it all. You might have a family solicitor but doesn't deal in property.
Yes.
It's quite a specialised thing, and recently with commercial property that I was buying, I used a specialised commercial lawyer for that, which was really important because they knew so much more than maybe someone else I would have used. So just remember that. Lawyers, there's different solicitors, different levels of skill set. Find the ones that are for you. Conveyancers are different than solicitors and lawyers.
Yeah.
So that's really important. Don't think you're just going to go to one for all your life. I use about 3 different ones. We have franchise lawyers, we have commercial property lawyers, I have like trademark lawyers. So it's really important to understand that. And I didn't know that when I was first in business and buying property. And you will learn so much from them. And ask them to guide you through. They want to, and anyone that's young or getting started or older, just don't go in thinking you know it all, because I don't know anything and I'm still learning.
Yes.
And I'm still buying property.
That's it. Always stay coachable.
Correct. And you'll get ahead. So any other tips? Let's talk about tips. I want to make an offer on a property. And I know this is where it can go wrong, and people talk about gazumping and the term, and they feel, oh, well, I made an offer and I didn't hear back because, I offered 900. The agent told me, I need to be putting an offer in at 990, and I thought the agent was giving me a lend, and I didn't want to, but they never got back to me. Then they sold for 950.
Because you can, if you hesitate too much or try and play games too far out of the realm of the price guide, I have seen it happen where they've missed the boat altogether. So I guess finding that healthy balance between you want to have a starting point, but you also want to be considered a qualified real buyer. So being clear with your offers and putting them in writing, making sure you're checking in with the agent as well. I mean, we have this level of efficiency and I guess service that we try and uphold, but in a general sense, unfortunately, sometimes you come across agents who are just running around like headless chooks and, they might forget about updating you because your offer's so far away or whatever else. So I think just making sure you find the balance, do your research and make sure it stacks up.
And I think, as you said, communicating with your agent, letting them know you're serious, to come back to you, because, again, there can be a lot of people putting offers on. You miss out because you're being a bit cheeky. In case in point here, viewers, case in point,
we've got one, I swear.
Before I was in real estate, way back, I remember once I was selling a unit in Manly, and it was, I think we had offers at $1,050,000. And this particular buyer, I was just the vendor then, I had an agent. This buyer was there for about a month and a half, and came up in $5,000 increments and wouldn't come any further. And then eventually what happened was there was a neighbour in the block told a friend who had apparently been looking in the block to buy this unit at Manly on the beach, and they came straight in at 1.25.
Yes, straight shooters.
Yeah, went bang, here's the offer. And I said, offer accepted. That day, that other one, because maybe the agent had told the other person that buyer came back, the agent probably told them, it's now, and said, I'll pay the same money. Now, how did I feel as the vendor? I felt like, well, stuff you. Sorry. You've stuffed me around for a month and a half. You could have had the opportunity.
Yeah.
So I said back to my agent, I said, don't entertain their offer. I'm sorry. Go with this person who's come straight shooter and come in. You don't need to tell them I'm going to sell to them. Now, I can do that as a vendor. I can make that call. Yeah. So this is what can happen. What happens is that the client can say to the agent, no, I want to run with this person. I don't need to go back to them.
Correct. And that balance is very important.
And we think, we're being gazumped. We haven't been gazumped because the vendor made a decision to sell to them. So you've got to be very careful of how you submit offers that you don't offend the vendor
Yes.
On that journey. So it's all these dynamics we don't know in the early days.
Yeah, and someone getting into the market, as I said, just do your research, look at your comparable sales, get a feel for what's realistic, and then just have a starting point that's going to work with your budget and express you're qualified.
So, Alyce, we'll put your details in this too, because I think if people want to reach out to you and just get some tips, especially you younger people that are wanting to get started in property and communicate with Alyce and go, how'd you do it, or any other tips you could give me. Alyce's details will be there, and I think it's really important to ask that and build up your skill and knowledge, because on this channel we're having all sorts of people join us, from older people like myself, younger people like Alyce. We've gone on this journey, sharing these stories, showing you that real people like us can get started in property at different ages. And we want to share the knowledge that has helped us go on that journey. So because there's so much content in books, but we're trying to keep it real and share these stories with you and make it easy to consume when you're on the train or on the bus or driving in the car and listening to something. On closing thoughts for property, is there anything you would do differently today buying a property than when you first bought your first one?
I think because I was lucky enough to get an insight into the real estate industry, inviting that early compromising asset was absolutely key. So if I can share anything with you, I think my regret would have been if I tried to get something a little bit more expensive and stretched myself to get the ideal first home.
Yeah.
So bring it back to the basics, get your foot in the door, and the world is your oyster.
Yeah, and build equity, let the growth grow up, leverage into the next, if that's what you choose.
Absolutely.
Alyce, thank you so much for today. And we're going to get you back on, and we're going to
me.
talk about the area you're selling, because we will be doing some market snapshots for people.
And
on your area,
insights.
prices, rental yields, all that sort of thing. But thanks again.
Thank
It's been
you
great.
so much.